Thank you to Jackie and Scott for sharing their beautiful gifts with us this morning. The scripture reading for this morning comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verses 29 through 37. But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of the robbers, who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, 'Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" He said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." May God add his blessing to the reading of his word.
Today is Mission Trip Sunday. Today is the day we're going to hear more about the mission trip that this church sent down to Memphis, Tennessee. I'm going to start off with an introduction about our trip, and then you're going to hear from 9 out of the 12 that went down. So let's have the 9 who are here come to a seat. And after their testimonies, one of our participants and our staff member, Zane Yowie, made a beautiful video that we'll also get a chance to see after we share. We went down to Memphis, Tennessee in June. If you know anything about Memphis, maybe that it's where Elvis is from, or that there's dueling barbecue places, or that it's the place where Martin Luther King was assassinated and a site of the Civil Rights Museum. Maybe you've heard that it's always at the top of the list in terms of highest crime cities in the United States. Maybe you've heard about it because of the extreme racial segregation that still exists there. The white flight that happened so that the city has poor school systems that are failing every single year. Maybe you've heard about the poverty in Memphis. Maybe you've heard about how it's dangerous to go there. Whatever your impressions are of Memphis, I'm sure that everyone here had those same thoughts. But they said yes to the call that we heard in our scripture today, to go and do likewise, to show mercy in a place that seems unlikely as a place to go, people to interact with, and they said yes. We went down to Memphis, Tennessee in June, one of the first mission trips that we've taken in years. Because of the pandemic and because of the shifting times, it's been years since we loaded into that bus and took a drive and went to a new community to serve. You're going to hear small, tiny stories from some of our participants. Not all of us are sitting here. 12 of us went, ranging in age from 5 to 70-something, I won't say. The 5 and 7-year-old with us are not sharing their testimonies, and Brittany Bennett is not here today to share hers, but the rest of us are. They're going to tell stories about some of the work we did with delivering Meals on Wheels and creating art for homes of those who will be put into their first secure living space, transitioning from homeless to homed. We're going to talk about times that we went down to a place called the Hospitality Hub, where all those who are housing insecure can come for a warm meal or a cold popsicle or a nice living room to sit in and to experience fellowship and decency and respect. You're going to hear about the 14,000 pounds of food that we boxed and the thousands of diapers that we boxed through the Mid-South Food Bank. But I'm going to start us out by telling you a little bit more about our trip beyond the mission work. Part of the reason to take a mission trip isn't just to go serve your neighbors and show mercy to those who are often ignored, but it's also to share an experience with some of your brothers and sisters in church, and we had some experiences. Early on when I came here 10 years ago, you know that I developed a little bit of a reputation of being a pastor of disaster, and that followed us into Memphis just a little bit. The first bump in the road was literally a bump in the road when the bus hit a guardrail and took just a tiny chunk out of the front of it, but it was totally fine. It's been repaired, and nobody's going to talk about who was driving then. It wasn't me, just so you know. Then we're driving around Memphis, and one of our rearview mirrors just decided to jump off. It was done with life on the bus, so it just jumped off and shattered on the road. Then we started noticing that the transmission was slipping, and we took it to a repair shop who suggested that, maybe we took it first to AutoZone, who suggested we needed some transmission fluid. So there we were pouring it in, quart after quart, amazed by how much it was taking. And then when we took it to the transmission place the next day, they said, "Whoa, you almost killed this car. Way too much transmission fluid," as they pumped it all back out. Then there was the time where we're staying over in the church. It's 1 a.m., everybody's sleeping on the floor in the classrooms, and all of a sudden everything smells like gas. So there we were evacuating for 2 hours while all of the city's fire trucks and hazmat teams came and fixed the gas leak. We had some fun too. We went to the Hard Rock Cafe and celebrated Adrian's birthday. We went through the Civil Rights Museum and toured some of the most important displays of civil rights that have happened in our country. We walked from Memphis, Tennessee to Arkansas across the Mississippi River. I'm telling you the truth. It's called the Big River Crossing, as we walked across this big bridge and toured another state. Some of us did Graceland, saw where Elvis lived and had his fun. We also had a nice dinner with my parents and some of my local friends in Memphis one evening, and we even did some barbecue tasting, comparing two of the competing barbecue shops in Memphis to decide which was the best. After this introduction, you're going to hear from our participants about what they remember from the trip, and then we'll have a chance to watch this video. Let's pray together. God, may the words of all of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Before they share, I'm going to introduce them. This is Zane Yowie. He's one of our staff members, as you know, and he served as a chaperone on the trip. After him will be Emma Kelly, who is a junior, sophomore. Sorry, I'm not trying to jump the gun. Then we have Haley Wilkinson, who is a senior. Clara Weber, who's a sophomore. Okay, great. Hayden Wilkinson, who's a freshman. Adrian Aguirre, who's a 7th grader. Jen Aguirre, who's a mom. And Beth Cavalier, who is also a mom and a grandma.
Our mission trip to Memphis, Tennessee was quite the adventure. We did all sorts of fun stuff, but the important part was how it totally pushed me out of my comfort zone doing our good work. Let me tell you, my comfort zone is a pretty cozy place, sort of like a technology booth where there's lots of colorful buttons. We hopped on with Meals on Wheels and delivered food to people in need. We passed out snacks and popsicles outside the hospitality hub, a place helping folks get back on their feet with temporary housing units outside. Let me tell you, those popsicles were a hit. I felt like the ice cream man. We had so many people coming up to us. We also spent some quality time at the food bank where we processed like a gazillion pounds of food. Okay, not like a gazillion, but maybe around 8,000. The youth groups we joined with from Alabama and Colorado were lots of fun. We jammed out to all kinds of different music while we moved. And just when I thought we couldn't handle anymore, we came back the next day to process a mountain of diapers. It probably would have been as tall as a baby-sized version of Mount Everest. But what really stuck with me was the people we met, like Helen, who took care of her brother and invited us into their house. We had a heart-to-heart, and I got a glimpse into their lives. We also saw some similarities that I could relate to. It made me realize that we're all just trying to navigate this hectic world in our own way. And then there was Jacques, or whatever his name was. He had a whole list of names, and apparently 2.3 million hits on YouTube somewhere. I wish he showed me. He told me how people would go out of their way to avoid him. He was just thrilled that we came up and talked to him. He even challenged Hayden and I to a foot race, and I would have won if my shoe didn't fly away. And we met Julie, our popsicle prophet. She was praying for popsicles in the sun, and lo and behold, we showed up the next day, and it was like divine intervention or good timing. Either way, we made her day, and she loved chatting with all of us. That's what mattered. In the end, the best part of the trip were these tough moments. You see just how like all people are. It made me realize how lucky I am to have my family and those who support me. Sure, our time in Tennessee couldn't solve all the problems there, but it showed me the impact a few individuals can make. Being a positive force, even if it's just through a foot race or handing out water bottles, can truly make a difference. And that, my friends, is worth every sweaty moment and missing shoe.
Hi, I'm standing because I'm extra, but my name's Emma Kelly. This summer in June, I got the privilege of going on a mission trip to Memphis, Tennessee. This trip showed me how much I take things for granted. During this trip, I served the Lord by serving all the people I met. Every person I met had an impact on me, big or small. We had the pleasure of working with groups from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Denver, Colorado. We also had the privilege of working with Memphis Youth Missions. During the week, we delivered Meals on Wheels and met so many wonderful souls, and I'm so happy we were able to provide food to them. We worked at a food bank and packaged 4,000 pounds of food and almost 14,000 diapers. I cannot believe how much we accomplished in just 2 hours. We also had the opportunity to go to a homeless hub. When I think of a homeless hub, I think of cots on gross floors and gross food. This hub was not like this. This hub was incredible, inspiring, and joyful. So many words could describe the atmosphere they're providing for unhomed people. They have counselors that help people get back on track with their life and get them the help they need. The 2 hours we spent there was life-changing. The day before we went to the hub, we made water packs that had a water, a prayer square made by our own Mrs. Barb Herman, a snack, and a nice note we wrote. I wrote a note that said, "You are amazing and loved." That specific water pack got delivered to this guy, probably in his 20s. I signed my name on it, and he asked someone from our group, who is Emma. They pointed to me, and he yelled, "Emma, thank you so much. I really needed this." I feel so lucky that by just 5 simple words that most of us hear a lot, made this guy happy even if his life is hard. We also met this woman named Julie that Reverend Sarah and Zane just talked about. She is my popsicle queen. She asked for at least 7 popsicles. Julie said the day before she was praying for a popsicle, and we then showed up the next day. Julie called us the Popsicle Ministry. It is so weird and amazing to think how God works. After talking to Julie, she asked if we could go get her paperwork so she could see a counselor. When we were walking into the hub to help Julie, a woman stopped Haley, Brittany, and I. She asked us to pray for her. We said, "Okay, ma'am, we will. What is your name so we can pray for you later?" She then stopped and froze and yelled, "No, pray for me now." So all 3 of us stopped, touched Willie Mae, and started praying. After our prayer, we hugged her and told her how much she was loved. It was crazy to me that even though they don't have a home, most of them don't have family or friends, and they do not get food or water every day, they still believe in God and His work. To me, that would be hard because I would feel betrayed that He doesn't have a plan for me, but they were also grateful for the little things we provided. None of them complained or were angry, and that was another insane thing to me because I complain at least a dozen times a day. It was quite a ball of emotions that day, but I'm so grateful that I was able to go on this trip. Even if the bus almost broke down, the mirror fell off, we hit a guardrail, the food was 100 years old, our bathroom flooded, we didn't go to bed until midnight most nights, we had to call the fire department for a natural gas smell at 1 in the morning, we even the 14-hour bus ride there, it was all worth it. Thank you for letting me share my experience with you.
Hi, everyone. This past summer, I got the opportunity to be part of the mission trip to Memphis. While I arrived 3 days later than the rest of the group after a long weekend of softball, thanks to Reverend Sarah, I was still able to take away so much from this trip. My first day was Wednesday, the day we met so many kind souls at the hospitality hub. We handed out popsicles and water packs with prayer squares attached to them. We talked to so many new friends and told them about the incredible prayer squares that Barb Herman makes for us, and everyone was so touched by them. Towards the end of our visit here, a lady approached Emma, Brittany, and I and asked us to go pray over her. Her name was Willie Mae, a name I will never forget. She asked us to pray that she finds the great God she once knew when she worked at a local church. So Brittany led us in prayer over her. After, Willie Mae thanked us, and we all hugged her and continued on with our day. However, we continued to pray for Willie Mae that Willie Mae found her way back to God that week. The rest of our trip consisted of us mainly serving at the food bank and a local church where Sarah was ordained. During our 2 visits at the food bank, we packaged over 4,000 pounds of food and 13,900 diapers and listened to lots of tunes. These were my favorite days. Seeing the numbers add up on how much food was going to be sent to people in need of it and how many babies were going to have fresh, clean diapers made me feel like we were making a big difference in someone's life, even if it was all behind the scenes. We met many other Memphis youth volunteers while singing along to Taylor Swift's newest hits and moving food to be packaged and sent out. Later that night, after dinner, we did this group activity that had us solve puzzles, play house disaster, Jenga, and matching games, all that had to do with what it's like trying to budget and live in poverty in Memphis. It really broke down how the slightest malfunctions in everyday life can make or break whether a family can pay rent that week. This was a very eye-opening activity we did. It made me realize how fortunate I am to have a constant roof over my head and food to eat while being able to enjoy all the sports and extra activities I do. I am extremely thankful for the week I spent this summer in Memphis with our youth group and the long-lasting memories it has provided me with.
When Emma invited me on this mission trip, I did not quite know what to expect. It was so cool to become close with everyone who I barely knew before. I go to the chapel in Green, and I played on a club team with Emma, and she invited me on this trip, so I really didn't know everyone until I got on the bus to leave. From getting evacuated from the church late at night to doing many jobs that helped the homeless in Memphis, my personal favorite was when we painted pictures for the new homes that homeless people were able to move into. I love to paint in my free time, and it was very exciting to be able to paint for a purpose. Generally, I just paint and set it somewhere in my basement, but this time it was going towards something very special. It was a nice break from the busy to just sit down and paint for someone. If I were moving into a house for the first time in a long time, it would definitely be a brighten to my day to see a painting hanging on the wall for me. I really enjoyed getting to know everyone through the week of this trip. Through the ups and downs, we all became closer through it all.
While on the mission trip, we served at a food bank. On the first day, I sorted food and packed it up for distribution. I enjoyed working alongside kids from other churches. We truly came together as a team to serve others. I was really glad when Reverend Sarah decided to take us back for a second day because I enjoyed the first day so much. Once again, we met new people to serve with. We packed diapers and our assembly line was really flowing. It was a lot of work, but time went fast because it was fun. On this mission trip, I also learned how we could overcome many obstacles. As you heard, we had a few bumps along the road, a natural gas leak, but all was fine. We bonded and served others, and I really can't wait for the next mission trip.
I was one of the few people who went on the Memphis mission trip. It was a very good experience. We did some mission work. One of the things that we did was Meals on Wheels with Meals on Wheels and delivered food to people. But you also get to meet different people. Another thing that we did was giving out popsicles to homeless people at this one homeless shelter called The Hub. It was very fun giving out prayer squares, but it was very sad seeing all the homeless people and talking to different people. Another day we went to a food bank and packaged food in boxes, and we went back the next day to package diapers. After we did this work, I am very thankful for everything that I have in life.
Good morning. I am Jenna Garay, and I was one of the participants that went to Memphis on the mission trip. This was definitely a trip I will never forget. It was a life-changing experience for me. Being a mom, my life mostly revolves around my family. But going on this trip opened my eyes to see what lies outside my world. And seeing what I saw in Memphis has given me a whole new perspective of what we need to do as a family. We've always taught our children to help people in need, but there is always room to do more. I am so grateful for the work that we got to do, like delivering food to people who are living in poverty, who are living alone, or who are elderly. Most of the people we delivered food to were so happy to see us. There was an elderly lady that Adrian and I met. She was waiting for us at her door. After we exchanged hellos, she proceeded to tell us that she was so upset because one of her crowns broke off her tooth. She needed to go to the dentist. She was so upset because now she needed to go to the dentist, and she didn't know what to do or how she was going to get there. I couldn't help but feeling helpless when we left. Helpless because we couldn't do more to help her out. I felt this way while we were at the hub as well. There were so many homeless people, and yes, they were happy to visit with us and eat popsicles, but that was only temporary relief. I found myself digging in my bag for snacks I had packed for the bus ride, and I handed those out as well. I also gave out all the water Adrian and I had in our water bottles to a few people who asked if I didn't have anything else to drink. There were so many times when the tears just flowed. Seeing all these people, listening to their stories, we can't begin to imagine what their lives must be like. We also went to the Civil Rights Museum. I have never experienced anything like that in my life as well. The saddest part for me is the realization that even though times are different, not much has changed. Sure, we don't have things like restrooms for whites or blacks anymore, and we don't have slavery going on, but the hatred people have for each other is still there. Certain races still can't get along, and people still go out to streets to protest and cause more violence and chaos. In Luke 10, Verse 27, Jesus says we are to love the Lord with all our heart, souls, mind, and strength, and our neighbors as ourselves. But let's be honest, we've all fallen short. When was the last time we asked ourselves what our responsibilities are to our neighbors? When was the last time you had a conversation with someone of another race or ethnic background? When was the last time you gave food or material items to the poor? When was the last time you shared your skills or knowledge with someone who is uneducated or untrained? When was the last time you helped someone elderly? Lastly, I would like to thank everyone who donated to this mission trip. We learned so many valuable lessons, and I know all of us up here will be able to apply those lessons in our daily lives to help make our society and our world a better place. Thank you.
Well, Haley and I didn't arrive in Memphis until Tuesday, and the group had already wrapped water bottles and prayer squares together to give to the homeless. So our first experience was to accompany the group to the hospitality hub to hand these out to them. The hospitality hub is a wonderful facility organized by churches in Memphis to provide not only housing for the homeless, but also social workers to help individuals get back into jobs by training how to interview and also providing clothes. Local attorneys also volunteer with legal help. And there is even a beauty shop to help prepare for going back into the workforce. Hospitality Hub is new, bright, and clean. It's not a big warehouse with rows of cots. But to help them feel normal again, people are housed 2 to a room with one bathroom between every 2 rooms. And there's beautiful living areas to visit and do normal things, like just watch TV. There's also a volunteer group that comes every day to serve lunch outside of the hub for the many street people who have not yet secured a place in the hub. We met so many people working hard to get their lives back in order, and dedicated people working hard to get them off the streets and safe. But the ones that touched me the most were our own young people, your kids. They are funny, giggly, goofy, and love to play pranks on each other and talk in a Southern accent all week long. But they are also respectful, kind, caring, and generous. They worked hard delivering food to the homebound and packing up tons and tons of food and diapers at the food bank with another group from Colorado. Watching them reach out to street people, complete strangers, each in their own way, talking, listening, laughing, praying, and even foot racing in the street. They are amazing. I was so proud and so touched and so honored to be involved with them. They are our future, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
Let's thank our mission team for bravely sharing. Thank you. Now we're going to show you a short video of our experience before we move into communion.
That's what you said to me. It keeps spinning, oh, steadily. And every day someone forgets who they are. Give in to greed and forget what's in their heart. And every ocean is filled with tears of hope. Someone is crying, trying to let us know that we can change and we can start again and move mountains and we can breathe again.
And no one baby cries, somebody's father dies. It's all a part of life. We gotta realize
it's so hard, such a beautiful world.
look at when I said running, he jumped up, right?
Yeah.
You ready to do one more race?
Is anybody else racing? You racing?
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah. Get set. Go.
Take a breath and close my eyes. I remember that I'm blessed to be alive. I say a prayer for those in need. I say a prayer for the spirit in me.
Children start to sing, sparrow spreads his wings. It's all a part of life, you have to realize.
It's a whole, such a beautiful world. And the world won't stop. It's what he said. It's all we got. And the world won't stop turning. And there's a lesson that we should be learning. We gotta love each other. We need to help each other. So love your father, mother, sister, and your brothers. And the world won't stop. It's what he said. It's what he said. Yeah. Every day I wake up so thankful.
We're going higher than the Statue of Liberty. Is that what you know?
Someone's up there watching.